Hannah Fitz. With me is, of course, your workshop leader for this event, Hannah Fitz, founder of the Aphrodite Code. Before we get started, I want to share with you some important housekeeping matters you need to be aware of that you will agree to through this participation. Please ensure that your camera is turned on and your mic remains on mute unless you are sharing during the event. And for some technical details, to the bottom of the Zoom screen is a control panel. There is reactions buttons. Click that and click raise hand. You can also use the various reactions options to express your sentiments during this event. If you have any technical challenges using Zoom during this event, you have access to send a message to myself in the Zoom chat. I'm here to support you. You agree not to share, screenshot, or record any part of this presentation today. You will not quote any participant or share their name or story on social media or anywhere whatsoever unless shared in discussion on the Aphrodite Code forum, or you have permission otherwise to do so from our atelier team. You agree to uphold the confidentiality of all participants and the content shared here today. You also agree that the material shared in this workshop is the sole copyright of Cultured Life LLC and Hannah Fitz. Please do not copy, reproduce, resell, share, or distribute the workbooks or any part of this presentation. If you are not in agreement with any of these conditions stated, you may exit the Zoom chat now. This forum will be 40 minutes, and then we will open to Q&A for you to share what support you need in your business and life right now. Our founder, Hannah Fitz, is passionate about continuously expanding how we serve this community and women living the Aphrodite Code. She is truly passionate about not only empowering women to create financial success, but also to heal and elevate their presence as powerful leaders, lovers, and legacy builders. This is why we're here today with 3 very special guests. Women who are expressing themselves and their gifts in what on the surface looks like completely different fields and paths, but leads to one place, making a difference. Aligned with our mission in Aphrodite Code of elevating the love and greatness in the world by creating a space where more women can become more successful and fulfilled living their truth in business and life. This isn't your webinar as usual. This is a forum, a sacred container where you will discover what it truly means to fulfill on any possibility for your life. Our guest speakers for today are 3 amazing women, founders and innovators. I now hand over to Hannah Fitz, who will introduce our guests today.
Well, welcome. I have been looking forward to this moment because I am always on the lookout for inspiring women and women who are not only building business and business success, but truly living what we call the cultured life, living a life of purpose, living a life of meaning, and really have a true desire to contribute and make a meaningful difference in the world. So I'm going to share the bios of each of our guests today. I have some questions that each of our guests will have in turn an opportunity to weigh in on these questions and give their feedback. We'll have a forum discussion around it. And we really hope that you will get some value out of their stories because, you know, many people have walked the path that you're probably about to walk, or maybe an experience that you're going through right now. And now you can see perhaps the light at the end of the tunnel through someone else's story. And that is why we create these sort of containers where you can actually learn from others, because we are all standing on the shoulders of each other's energies in some way or another. Everything we create, every success, every failure is somewhere in the vortex out here that we're all collecting those energies. And I feel like there's so much power when women come together in the spirit of sharing. It is a beautiful, powerful feminine energy. And there's so much value we can get just listening and not just hearing what everyone has to say today, but looking and seeing where in your life is that present, or could that possibility exist for you? Because what is for one is for all. And so I'm going to start to introduce our guest here today. Annia Jenkins is a designer and CEO. She emerged into the luxury and fashion world from Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, and she moved to Texas, so Dallas, Texas, in 2009 as a nurse, an ICU nurse. So Annia, I didn't know that about you. When I read that, I was really happy to see that. As always, she had a passion for all things luxury, lifestyle. And it was this passion that encouraged her to merge forces with her late mother, Cynthia Hightower-Jenkins, and birth All Things Beautiful & Co., a full-service luxury, concierge, and bespoke experience company. Although Annia is recognized around the world for orchestrating private jet charters, brand experiences, dinner parties, wine tastings, and a gamut of luxury services, she still desires to bring these same elements of luxury into the world of retail, which is why her love for travel really allowed her to merge into creating fashion design and launching the Annia Louisa Collection in October 2021. Annia Louisa is a luxury collection of limited edition resort wear and home scents inspired by some of the most elaborate travel destinations around the world. She has received numerous awards and recognition for her community service and entrepreneurial endeavors, including being featured in Who's Who, Black Dallas, 10 Shades of Success, Fashion Stars for a Cause, the Shannon J. Agency Bleeding Heart Community Award, Voyage Magazine's Inspiring Stories, Rebel Role Model of Women of Influence, and has been featured in Gabbed in Modesty, Voyage Dallas, Good Life Family Magazine, The Addison Suite, Southern Dallas, and noted international portal Upscale Living Magazine. Welcome, Anna. You are on mute, so I think we can't hear you.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be in this room today. So excited.
I'm so thrilled to have you and to share your story, because your story is truly both touching and really inspiring as well. I want to now introduce Dr. Janelle Kim. She is a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, wellness expert, and best-selling author. And for some reason, Dr. Janelle, I somehow do not have your full, which is a big error. I don't know if Tanya, you can go in and put it, because for some reason it got deleted. I might have pressed something, because I did check and it was here. So I'm going to go over to Taco, and Tanya is just going to update this, and we will come back to you, Dr. Janelle. I'm so sorry.
Perfect. Please don't be sorry.
Yeah. So Taco Denia is a 25-year, I was going to say 55-year, 25-year experience in development specialist in the working with organizations like the United Nations, and working with empowering women and girls at home, the farm, and the workplace. She believes that providing women and girls with resources, opportunities, and decision-making abilities is a smart shortcut for a bright future for all. She's a mother of 2 girls in a male-dominated society, and hopes that the level playing field for accessing good jobs and high income will be even more for the next generation of women. She loves art in all forms and expresses herself through her vibrant, colorful paintings, and enjoys life's little pleasures, long walks in the freshing morning with a stop of cappuccino, because she lives in Rome. So of course. And she entertains romance with the good life, good food, good travel, nice friends, and mesmerizing Roman architecture. Welcome, Taco.
Thank you, Anna.
And Taco is also a member of Aphrodite, so thrilled to have you here. Dr. Janelle Kim is a prolifically cited wellness expert, and has been featured in Forbes, Allure, Meditation Magazine, Time, GMA, etc. She is also, as I said earlier, a best-selling author. She's devoted to integrating the philosophy of ancient medical wisdom and expertise of East Asia with the advancement of modern life and medicine to the West, to touch and positively impact the lives of others. Dr. Kim is a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and is nationally board certified in herbology, oriental medicine, and acupuncture. Dr. Kim completed extensive training in East Asia under some of the most respected doctors in the field of Oriental medicine and is the custodian of her lineage's proprietary Bai Bong formulas. Her book, Musang, The Korean Art of Living Meditation, was published in January 11, 2022 by Watkins Publishing and distributed by Penguin Random House. Musang is available globally in 10 languages: Czech, Thai, Italian, Croatian, Spanish, Romanian, Turkish, Australia, New Zealand, and Serbian. In her book, Dr. Kim breaks down the principles of Musang, offering a way to achieve a life of balance and happiness by enjoying the positive benefits of meditation every minute of the day. Dr. Kim's unique approach to meditation combines the lesson of movement and natural medicine learned from a lifetime of experiencing studying Eastern philosophy, Eastern medicine, and martial arts. With almost 20 years in the beauty and wellness industry, Dr. Kim has formulated some of the first all-natural luxury products carried in high-end spas, including the Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, and Mandarin Oriental high-end retailers such as Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman, and in the natural marketplace in stores like Whole Foods and Sprouts. Thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for being here today. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Hannah. It's really an honor to be here, especially in the presence of such amazing women.
Incredible, incredible. So I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to just share a little bit about, what is a little backstory about your life and what inspired your journey to your chosen path. And here we like to call that chosen path sort of like your promised land. So we're going to start with Annia, then we'll go to Dr. Kim and then tackle.
First of all, Hannah, thank you so much for having me today. It is truly an honor to be just amongst amazing women. And when you were reading those bios, I'm like, wow, this is really good. So I'm so excited to be here. And congratulations, ladies, just for being beautiful women and successful women and women that are following your passion and your purpose. Congratulations on that. So just a little backstory about me. I am originally from Louisiana. I moved to Dallas in 2009. At the time, my ultimate desire was to be a nurse. I grew up knowing that nursing and caring for others was my element, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I moved to Dallas in 2009 to pursue an internship with a healthcare system here. And as life started happening and I started kind of journeying through, I love what I do as a nurse, but my entrepreneurial itch just did not leave. My father is an attorney in Louisiana and also a senator. My late mother was an entrepreneur, very creative spirit, singer, songwriter. I mean, you name it, she did it. And so I could not get rid of the entrepreneurial itch. And one thing that I've always enjoyed was traveling the world. One thing I've always enjoyed was luxury lifestyle, not per se when it comes to price tags, more just experiences. I've always been somebody that's been very experience driven. If I'm going to invest my money in something that is not business related, I love experiences. So I wanted to be able to create that atmosphere for people to experience things, bespoke moments that you've never been able to experience in life, or you don't really know how to bring it all together to make it make sense, to make those dreams and desires make sense, whether it's traveling or whether it's any level of concierge service. That's kind of what I envision. I traveled to the UAE a lot, and I began to experience concierge services over there. And I called my mom one day and I said, why does the United States not really like adapt to concierge services? And I said, this is like the ultimate way to go as far as like bringing all luxury elements together. So she said, Anna, I have no idea. Think on it, come up with what you like. And you know, I would love to see how that goes. And sure enough, I put a full plan together for a luxury concierge service. My mother and I, our favorite bird is the peacock. And so just thinking on the peacock and the beauty of the peacock, I named the company All Things Beautiful and Co. And then I asked my mother to be my partner in this endeavor. And from there, it's been history. I've been able to really curate some of the most fascinating experiences for people, both individual and corporate experiences, brand experiences for luxury brands that are looking to elevate their client interaction. And it's my passion. It was very hard. A lot of teaching went into it. But when you're passionate about something, it never feels like work. And that's when I knew that I found my space. It took my mother passing away. My mother passed away in July, very, very unexpectedly. And I'm sure we'll dig deeper into those feelings. But with my mother passing away, the desire that we had prior to her passing was to be able to bring the elements of luxury into the home. So we started thinking of retail, ways that we can get into retail and still that would still merge with All Things Beautiful. And our first desire was to create a resort wear collection, to actually design all the way down to the prints. We flew to India to look at fabrics and to look at some of the finest silks. We brought all of those elements back. We sketched out our desires, and prior to my first campaign photo shoot, well, no, I'm sorry, 3 days after my first campaign photo shoot, my mother passed away. So Annia Louisa was birthed at that point, and I knew that that was something that was going to be the angelic business within a business that was going to always be very close to my heart. So Annia Louisa's collection was birthed after that, and that's where we are now. I am really living within my purpose and living within my passion, and going out in the world and begging people to live in their purpose and to live in their passion. I beg it at this point. I think once you've experienced something so tragic, such as a sudden death of someone that you love, you look at life differently. So I really my desire is to live every day urging people to do exactly what you're dreaming of doing, because it's a reason why that's been implanted in you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Annia. You know, what you share is something that I so deeply resonate with, because part of also what drives me is the loss of my mom when I was 14 years old as well. And that burning desire, because I think a lot of people live their life as if there is time, as if this is the rehearsal life and they're going to get into real life at some point. And I think that urgency is something that a lot of people take for granted. And so I'm so happy that part of your mission is also using your platform as a tool to share that with people. So thank you so much for bringing this element, because I feel if anybody walks away with anything here today, it's remembering this piece. This isn't your pretend life or your in the meantime or rehearsal life, like it's happening now.
Right now, on the clock, right now.
On the clock right now, now. Beautiful. So Dr. Janelle, tell us a little bit about your story.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. Anna, that was really touching, and it does not surprise me. I already knew this, but now sitting here with yourself, and I'm sure Taco, you're certainly Hannah, there's a reason why we're all here together. And I don't usually start my introduction this way, but I must, that I absolutely resonate with. It means so much to me that you said passion and purpose, and a lot of, I will go into, how I fall into that path, but I too experienced a very sudden passing of my father. It's interesting that the three of us already. And so my heart goes out to you that way. However, I do know that that is the yin and yang, that is the living meditation. Everything that I wish so much to share that has been passed in my lineage is exactly that. Knowing that life is short. It doesn't have to be a pessimistic view, but Hannah, you said it beautiful. This is not a rehearsal. It is right now. And everything that we do, already that second passed, and we can never get that back. And so that is it can be it's a very powerful way, let me put it that way, of living life. And when you connect to that with the passion, with that purpose, you know, you never feel alone in this world. There's not moments, it doesn't mean that we have moments that we don't feel lonely. Doesn't mean that there's not challenges. In fact, that is life, right? But to know that things go on and we connect and we have purpose and we connect to those who came before us. I just think that's so beautiful. And so what a beautiful way that I have not yet done in the many, many podcasts and interviews that I've been on, but I love that because it's grounding even for myself. So ultimately who I am is exactly that. I'm 9th generation in my lineage for sharing what I have come to call the 3 M's or the 3 pillars, which as you beautifully introduced, and I appreciate, Hannah, it's medicine, meditation, and movement. And when I say meditation, when I speak of living meditation, we don't have to go so far into that at the moment, but ultimately it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. And I've come so far as to start to call it a training, because it is active and dynamic, and in my complete power, what I wish to share is how much we have to be connected and involved. And living meditation means that every moment we have to be aware. We always have a choice. You can be unaware, you can be aware, you can be closed-minded, you can open your mind and your perspective to see where other people stand. And that's the beauty and strength of it. So while it can be daunting sometimes, to know that is the most empowering, particularly for women in my men and women alike. But you know, as women, we are yin. And being, there's yin and yang, and that's what I speak of, the universe, right? And that's what's been passed down for so long. But ultimately, I'm the very first woman in my lineage to be able to share these formulations, these principles, the movements, those 3 M's. So I take that very seriously, and the first to ever share them in such a wide range with so many different people around the world. So it means the very most to me. And ultimately, what has been passed down in my lineage, why I have made it my life's purpose to share with everyone that I possibly can, is that our ancient teachers, masters, sages from all ancient practices and cultures really comes down to the principles of, if we are able to think correctly, if we are able to act correctly, move correctly, and take care of our bodies through food, through supplements, through topicals and products that we put onto our bodies even. Remember, our skin is our largest organ. If we are able to constantly balance with that and be aware of that, we truly can achieve a life of balance, of calm, of beauty, of youth. And you know, I am very much into happiness, but I hope that everyone noticed that that's not what was one of the main goals of why I wish to share this, for everyone to have happiness, because at the end of the day, the underlying principle of the medicine that's been passed down, the formulations, the movement, and the meditation, that way of life, is that we live in this universe. And no matter who we are, no matter if we lived thousands of years ago, even however many years from now, in our connection within our own lineage and to everyone around us, we're all human. And that means certain principles of life exist. Just like there is day and night in Eastern philosophy and in medicine and in movement, we talk about yin and yang. So you have the universe, it's yin and yang, and that dichotomy, that duality always exists. And what that means is, in life, there's always going to be ups and downs. And so the ultimate goal that our ancient teachers taught us was that if we are able to balance ourselves and be calm enough within ourselves to ground ourselves in such a way that life does not knock us down, even in the most hurtful and shocking moments, that is where we will find peace. And when we have peace, we can connect within ourselves, mind, body, spirit. We can connect amongst each other. We connect to the universe. And what is more important than that in life? So that's kind of it all. There's a lot of other details, but to me, that's the most
we're going to get into a little bit of
Yes.
it. And I have to tell everyone here, I know we recommended it in our Cultured Life magazine, but your book, now you pronounce it, I want to pronounce it right. Say it,
it's very difficult, Hannah. It's Myeongsang, and it's translated as meditation.
Right? Myeongsang. I knew I was saying it incorrectly.
Beautiful publisher wanted it Korean, which I love, but it's not easy for anyone. And so just remember living meditation.
Myeongsang is, when I got your book, you know, there are a lot of personal development and self-help books out there, but I have to say that this book had so many practical takeaways, things that you could immediately implement in your life, and concepts that are such game changers in terms of how you actually see life. And, you know, one of the things I think we don't emphasize a lot, or I feel there is a misunderstanding of it, and I feel like your book brings clarity to it, is the concept of integrity, because we tend to we tend to bracket integrity and morality in the same box when they are actually two different things. You know, integrity is more about your word and who you say you are being and how you show up. And I love when you talk about, you know, the mountain and the face and being that one face. That is integrity. And so I think your book is a lot about integrity. I actually shared when I looked at like books that will heal your chakras, I felt like it was a book really related to the root chakra and grounding and really finding that safety, that security, and that identity of self. And I really, really love it. So I encourage everyone here to get this book because it is so different and it's such a powerful approach to life.
Oh, it means so much to me, Anna. Thank you. Thank you for that. So happy to hear that it's practical and applicable. That means the very most.
Totally.
Such a beautiful conversation you had too, which maybe we'll get into maybe another time, but integrity and how important that is. Not everyone always calls that part out, but you're right. That is one of the most important things as a human being. So thank you very much for that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing the wisdom of your father and was it your grandfather as well, the master?
Actually, in the book, the interesting thing is it's my father and his master who is not blood related. And so isn't that a beautiful
and his master and his
Yes,
master. That's right. That's right. So beautifully written. So Tackle, we come to Tackle, and actually I met Tackle for the very first time last year in Rome. We were at a women's conference, and when I saw this woman and her spirit and energy was so beautiful. So Tackle, I'll give you an opportunity to share a backstory of your journey and what you are doing, what drives your passion in the world.
Thank you, Anna. You know, I would define myself at this particular time in my life as a woman in transition. I'll tell you why I think I'm a woman in transition. I think most of my life I was swallowed by work, just trying to become, whether it was to become the wife of someone or to become a good student, a great professional, a good mother. You know, it was really about becoming. What can I do to put myself there to succeed in life? Because my idea of success was that the financial success, the being high in the hierarchy of my organization, and I spent over 25 years fighting for women's and girls' rights, and you really come across very difficult issues around violence against women. I mean, there are just too many challenges, the lack of access to resources, opportunities. You work as hard as men, but you don't get the same salary. So there are many, many issues, and it can be very draining. And I loved my job because it also, in a way, gave me the opportunity of exposure to different parts of the world. I traveled a lot with that job. I met amazing women, amazing friends in my quest for equality, dignity, justice for all. And I built very strong sisterhoods. I moved places. I lived in Africa. I'm African. I'm from Senegal. I lived in North America for a long time, in Europe for, I don't know, maybe over 20 years now. So that's what my life was. And COVID changed something for me. I was here and I'm just like, wow, did I really fulfill the promise for my life? What would happen if that was it? Because all of a sudden I sensed the urgency to do the things that I did not have the opportunity to do. And I started thinking about my life, not in terms of becoming, but in terms of being. I'm like, okay, I am, again, the team leader. I am this, I'm that, but that's really not who I am as a person. So what is the trigger that would fulfill that dream? And I've always been passionate about art. My entire life, I collected art. Anywhere I traveled, I would run to a gallery, buy a piece of painting or something of that country. My kind of dream retirement life was to get a fancy place, have like a private museum and display the art and share it with people. So during COVID, there was really nothing to do. And I have a very lively daughter who was 8 at the time. We were here, the two of us alone. So we had to be creative because not only did I have to, I was scared, but I had to reassure her that everything was okay. And you know how it was during COVID.
For Italy.
Yeah, I actually painted something which was swallowed by the chores because it was running all the time. We had to get used to a new ways of working, and then the child had to teleschool and the cooking, the doing the dishes, and everything in one plate. And my daughter used to tell me that, Mommy, maybe you should be the lunch lady of the school. The food is so much better here at school than at school. So that's how it was. And by accident, I picked painting. Really by accident, wasn't planned. They were canvases, they were bought for my daughter by accident because we we had a friend who went through a trauma. You know, it was a young couple and the husband died suddenly. And he was a young, strong man, military man. And we're like, well, how can that happen? And we had her in a Zoom meeting and she told us the story, narrating everything. And her heart was broken. I mean, the two kids, they were really sad and it was really a depressing moment. And I came out of that, and the first thing I painted was, you know, to evacuate all that stress. And once I did one, my daughter was like, "Wow, this is so good. Why don't you continue?" So I kept going because it also, in a way, gave me a sense of control. I couldn't control anything else around us, but I could always control what goes on the canvas. I could see what I'm doing. I could decide what I'm going to paint. I could take the outcome somewhere according to my wish. So I kept painting. I kept painting, and once I did, now the house was flooded with paintings everywhere, drying. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with it? I'm on a full-time job. Would they ever let me, you know, exhibit in a gallery? I'm not sure it's compatible. So what do I do with it? So okay, let me do a book. I'm not sure I can do exhibitions, but a book is allowed. So I invited friends from everywhere in the world. I invited about 75 friends of different ages. The youngest is my daughter, who is 11, up to 80 years. And they all wrote something that spoke to the painting. So that's what I compiled. And I published this book called Women, and it's really about amplifying women's voices on issues that make them cry, what makes them happy, but also all these inequalities. And there's a chapter that really speaks about me as a woman, and everybody can identify with one of those qualities. It's like I'm visionary, I'm this, I'm that, I'm powerful, and every woman can identify with some of those qualities. So for me, it was a good moment, and I believe that it has really set a new path for me, because now I'm in transition. I'm doing both, but I'm sure that my next life is that, you know. So so maybe I'll stop there at the moment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Taco. And such a beautiful, as you began to describe that, you know, on the outside world, everything seems to be out of your control. It's collapsing. There's chaos. No one knows what's going on. When COVID first happened, we didn't know what it was really, you know, and there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. But yet there is this canvas. And now you have a platform that you can control. And I like to think about that canvas as our inner self as well. We cannot control the outer world, but we can control that inner canvas and really paint the colors of what we really want to see. And I felt that is what I got out of what you shared here today, Taco. And and you said something about the accident, and I feel, wow, it wasn't an accident. It was actually all set up. It's like sometimes the universe sets us up for that moment. So I just love how that happened, because again, you know, life happens sometimes when we're not even making plans, right? It's just there, boom, this, you were ready for it, and you said yes. You said yes to the call, and that's the beautiful part of your story that I so truly love. And I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to experience Taco's art and her book. It's also featured in the Cultured Life magazine. It's incredible work. I absolutely love how she sees the feminine and expresses that through her artwork. So really, I invite you to check that out. And I'm sure she'll be sharing with us the link to her book, which Tanya can also share in the chat here. And we'll also put it up on the e-lounge so you can access that. We'll share it on social media as well. So I want to bring forth my next question to the forum. And the question is really around, what is your mission in business, and how important is it for female founders to have a clear mission and communicate it to the world? And so we're going to go in the same order.
Yes, that's a very, very good question. I think that we are living in a world now that I'm so excited about, because women really are speaking out. We are really showing our strengths. We have multiple strengths, but there is still so much that we are responsible for, and so much that we're taking in, that I believe that a clear mission and a clear understanding of what you want to do is very, very important. I say that because as a creative myself, it's hard when you are a creative and you are a businesswoman, because that creative side of you, your brain is going all over the place. You're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And then someone tries to bring you the business aspect, and you're like, I really can't hear that right now. It's watering down this idea that I have. I don't want to think about the business side of it. But you have to be able to will all of that in, together to make it make sense, to be the most fruitful. If in your mind you're scattered, more than likely the presentation that you're putting out there to the world is going to be a scattered presentation. And it comes down to like the marketing and the branding of what you really want to represent. If you don't have a clear understanding of exactly what you're wanting to represent, there's no way for the world to have a clear understanding of that. And so I think that is very, very important. And as far as my passion with my business, or ultimately when you kind of dissect it all, my purpose, it's really mission through beauty. It's really a mission of beautiful living that goes so much deeper than anything relevant to price tags or designer things or the grandiose things of the world. When you really, really dissect and pull back, it's really just a beautiful packaging of my ministry. My ministry is to bring beautiful living to persons, to bring experiences, to the world, and also to just empower women, to empower women through my story. It's amazing, because after losing my mom, prior to losing my mom, I was in a place, I had a really blessed childhood growing up. I had both of my parents. I everything that I spoke, I manifested it. And that's the only side of life that I knew growing up. But after losing my mother, I feel like my story was not created until now. Now it's the meat of who I am, the meat of wanting to make sure that people are, like you said, have a sense of urgency to what you're passionate about and what you're wanting to do. And so the entire aspect of luxury lifestyle is really just a packaging of beyond the aesthetics, but the beauty of living in passion, like living in your purpose, and then realizing that there is a level of urgency to that, and then to present it clearly. You know, like I said, we think of so many things that we want to do, but what of those things is what you could really wake up every day and say, if there was no money involved, if there was no, no money involved, no, things involved that are just all of the fluff of it. What am I seeing myself? What am I finding myself doing on a regular basis? And that's what I find myself doing. I find myself calling to check on people, saying, okay, what have you done today? What have you gotten up and done? Where's your vision board? What are your goals? Have you written down for the year, the 300 things you want to accomplish? Like literally, no matter how small they are. We all need that motivation. And I'm beginning to see more and more that I think as women, we kind of begin to isolate sometimes when we're so busy. We begin to isolate, and we begin to have to try to focus on everybody that we're taking care of. But when have you stepped back and written down everything down to the smallest thing that you want to accomplish, and actually put it on paper to allow it to manifest? And we need that as women. We need to be we need to be received by other women. We need like accountability partners. We need those things. And so that's my ultimate goal. Under all of the business, under all of that, my ministry is within that. And that is truly, truly making sure that we're on track, that everybody that are veins from my tree is on track with what are we doing? Who are we trying to be? And what have we done just today? We can't see five years down, but what have we done today to go one step further towards that?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people think about, what they will do. And I was talking to a client today about being in love with the idea of your goal and actually being in love with your goal, because many people are just in love with the idea of their goal. They have not fallen in love with their goal, which is why they're not taking the daily action steps to see it become a reality.
Very true. Very, very true.
I love what you shared. So beautiful. So Dr. Janelle, can you just weigh in on this?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm so fortunate to be after you, Annia, and then Hannah, you say your piece and it sets everything up beautifully. I could not agree more. I might take it to a different place than I originally was going to, because you answered it beautifully and we're completely aligned, Annia. And Hannah, you said something that was also on my mind, which is just as in life, it's about the follow through and the action. I mean, this is what I teach my young boys as well. While I completely discuss and constantly think about and reflect on, teach my sons, hopefully share to the best of my ability with the world, which is what I touched on before, it really comes down to, yes, we are here right now in this moment, prioritizing, especially as women, we have to prioritize. Otherwise it becomes overwhelming. My favorite thing lately is just calling it out the way that it is. We can do so much. Our potential is truly limitless. However, it is very important so that things do not become overwhelming when, like you, Taco, I have two young boys. One is 10, one is 6. I mean, there's something very real about that, having them run around while running multiple businesses, staying true to our purpose, our passion, as you said, Annia, so beautifully. And so I agree. When I think about as a founder with my lab, now with the book, with the movement aspect, events, basically my career path, but also my life, how grateful we all are able to say that. One of the most important things I believe, and very similarly to what was just said, is we have to set our mind on something. So what is your purpose? We have to sit down and really ask ourselves this. What is my goal for myself, no matter what? It is making sure that connecting to my lineage, I do something in this life that I am able to continue to share that. That is very important to me. I know I'm here. It's a duty. It's beyond something. Sometimes I grew up and people used to say, oh, you put too much on your shoulders, Janelle. And but didn't know how to even respond to that. And then finally I realized, yes, I do. And I choose to do that. And it is very important to me. And I really don't have to explain myself to anyone because it's something that's so deep and so rooted. And I'm so connected because and it is kind of a daunting way, and I do not think that everyone has to take this on, but to myself, if I do not continue this, basically my whole lineage, everything that my ancestors, including my father, worked and dedicated their whole lives to, where does that go? And so that's why I share it in that manner is you can see how that can be overwhelming for myself too sometimes. So what is my goal? My goal is, and that's where I even came up with a 3M. So on the business standpoint, a little bit more black and white, this is how I personally started to narrow it down. All right, if I had to break all these principles, philosophy of life and medicine, how in the world do you do that? Okay, it's medicine, it's movement, it's meditation. And I hope that this example actually shows my process of, even if it can feel so, especially when you connect to your passion and a deep purpose, it can be so much, and it is so much. But what are the main points? Sit down and think about that. Really, you write it down. 3 things that I wish to share in my life. The first 20 years of my life thus far as an adult, I have focused on the medicine aspect, creating products for brands carried around the world. I have now 3 labs. That is very important to me to share that medicine. After my father passed away, something sparked inside of me. I had to sit down even in that moment and reevaluate. No matter what, my ultimate mission and purpose has not changed. But in that moment, what was the most important thing? I had to sit down truly. And it took me a good year, honestly, probably 3 years. That's the truth. And that's a whole thing in and of itself, where I sat down and checked in with myself. What is the most important thing to me right now after losing the most important person in my life very quickly, like this? No warning whatsoever. And it hit me. And it's funny, in those moments, I can think back in a time of such haze. It's like a surreal type of a feeling. All I wanted to do was to write a book and share the principles, the philosophy. So then I had to reevaluate everything. So my main career path is medicine. How am I going to fit this in? And it really is one step in front of the other. But how do you, and every day, sometimes every hour, I have to reprioritize what I wish to achieve. When my children come home, I make it a point, almost always, something very important to me. I tell them, I've actually never shared this out loud. I get butterflies still to this day before I pick them up because I'm so excited to see them. So my workday starts, but when it comes time at 2:45 to pick them up, I have learned and chosen that in that moment, my priority is to be with them, even for an hour. And it sounds interesting, but let's be real. Sure, we can put all of our stuff away and don't look at our phone and don't look at our emails, but let's be realistic. When you own your own business, you have to check in sometimes. At some point in my life, maybe I can make the choice that I can push it further. I do not know. I am not there yet, but in this moment, what is important? And so kind of in conclusion, we have to have our goal in mind, but every moment, almost, we have to reprioritize in order to keep moving to that goal. And there's one other thing, I'll make this a little bit shorter, that I think is really important. Not only is it important to go moment by moment and follow through with our action, it takes work. That's what I was going to say before. I teach my boys, you connect and you have faith and you trust in something more than you, in God, in the universe, that there is a path for you. But let me be very clear. In order to achieve anything in this life that is purposeful and that you will be proud of, you have to work hard. Period. End of story. And if anyone tells you differently, they're not looking out for you. So that is that.
I like that. And what you're sharing, I really love when you talk about, like, let's be real, because one of the things I shared on social media today was, everybody talks about, balance, work-life balance, like we need to give equally to those things at all times when it just isn't realistic, but so I really sat and I thought about this idea and I thought, well, what we're trying to achieve is not necessarily balance, but harmony. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. Like, you're not necessarily, even if it's just an hour, it's not that I spend 8 hours at work and I spend 8 hours with my kids, like now it's in balance. No, right. It's about, like, how do I bring quality time to the time or presence to where I am in that moment with them? And how do I harmonize those 2 different experiences in my life, my running my business and being present to my kids, so that I can ultimately experience that happiness and that fulfillment.
I could not agree more. Could not agree more. And I want to hear what Taco says. So I don't want to take too much more time, sure. But if I may, that balance part, I'm a very visual person and I speak of balance a lot. And I love that you say that, Hannah, because I say that often. We always use these words, balance, balance. Stop for a second and think about what we're even saying. And if we think about balance, harmony, whatever word resonates with us and means something, but balance, even if you look at the scales, right? It's constantly, you put a little bit on, you put a little bit off, and you have to keep evaluating. So how can you say, right, like that, it's 8 hours today, 8 hours tomorrow? It's like we constantly set ourselves up, especially owning businesses and in a career path that way, or as parents or as relationship. It's like we keep setting certain expectations, and life doesn't work that way. You do have to achieve balance constantly, but every minute it's changing. And so how do you, that's hard to put in a book. I wish I could. Well, it's very simple, everyone. If you do A plus B, then C comes. No, it doesn't work like that. But that's what makes us women. That's what makes us yin. We are yin by nature is complex, where yang is a little bit more straightforward, and that's the way it is, feminine, masculine. So anyways.
Beautiful. So Tackle, let's share a little bit, because as you mentioned a little bit about your mission earlier, just sharing a lot more about how important it is to have that mission and that driving you forward, and everyone understanding what that mission is.
Yes, Anna, my mission is clear. It will never change. The way I deliver that mission might change, but this commitment to empowering women and girls worldwide is what I want to do. That's what I have been working on. I believe in it. And, this is really a job that there's not a single day when I wake up in the morning and I'm like, no, this job is not useful. Because I see things that happen to me at the level where I am. And I'm just like, okay, this is me suffering about patriarchy, about all kinds of issues. Now imagine a woman in a rural area, where there's no literacy, there is no services. To get water, you even have to walk kilometers to go and fetch water. So I'm like, okay, if me where I'm sitting, I'm experiencing some of these challenges, what happened to a woman that doesn't have any support? So the mission is clear. That's what I want to do. I'm enriching it with the painting, because the painting is me. When I'm painting, I'm giving to me. I feel in that moment, I feel fully aligned with the universe. When you paint, it's like time stops, everything stops. I never feel lonely or want to travel or anything. It's like you can travel in it, you can get everything in it, because you are very much in the present. And so what happens is that, when I paint, I'm full of love and gratitude, and it really makes me feel like to give even more outside. And so I feel very grateful that I found that. Probably I would never have found out if COVID didn't come in the way. So so it's one of the ways that I get out of my box. This platform gets me totally out of my box, and I'm really appreciative that I am with a different crowd. This is not my usual crowd in the office. The kind of women's conferences or meetings that I go to, this is different. This is like I'm giving myself something. I'm learning about meditation, medicine, and movement. I'm learning also from what Annia just said. So the mission is clear. What I feel is, as women, we shouldn't go anywhere looking for treasures. We are full of treasures. We are the treasures. We are really the torch of life. We keep the families. I speak to everybody, even in my office, and the men are often not there. The women take a lot of the responsibility. So I feel that we have no choice but to be resourceful, to be also responsive to what happens around us, but also to be responsive to our own needs and priorities, because if we don't feel good, we cannot give good. So it's important that we give to ourselves, that we nurture ourselves, that we treasure ourselves, we parent ourselves, and then we can feel empowered to go and empower others. I think we can be good role models for younger women. We can be very resourceful in responding to some of the challenges. One of my dreams, for instance, when I retire from my current job, would be to keep empowering women, but go and paint with communities of women, try and sell it on the market, and support the communities. So for me, the mission is clear. The mission is clear. I'll keep working on that. I might enrich or change the way I do things, but I'm not going to change from that direction. That's my calling.
Yeah.
And I take it very, very seriously. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I love that because there's a lot of clarity in that, in knowing, and that's the thing. I like when you talked about that box and taking yourself out of the box, because I think a lot of people over-identify with their job title rather than their mission or their purpose in life. And the expression of that mission and purpose can take many different shapes and forms. But when we over-identify with a title, with a job description, we tend to put ourselves in a box. And I think that's when we start to experience things like burnout and lack of fulfillment, because we have locked ourselves into an idea rather than something that's more purpose-driven. So I really love that you shared that. And then the thing you shared about when you're painting, time stops. You know, we did a course called Live the Promise. And one of the things, I think it's in week 7 or something like that, it's called the Meraki energy. And that's when you're in your Meraki energy, when you're doing your paintings, right? We all want to reach for that place where we work and time stops, you know, like, this is, you feel like you're one with God. It's like you and God are truly one. There's that oneness in that moment, and it's such a powerful experience. So I really, I'm happy that you shared that, because I feel that we should all be reaching for that experience in our life. We may not always have it, but in those moments, it's pure ecstasy. Beautiful. So my next discussion is around, and I know Taco said a bit of that before about the male-dominated world. So I want to talk to each and every one of you. We are operating, I mean, in every industry. Even, you know, I look at the fashion industry, for example, you know, our shoes, our clothing are designed by men, most of it. Right. And so what are some of the challenges that you have each had to face as a woman in often male-dominated world, and how did you overcome them to create success in your business and life?
That's a very good one. That's something I just had this conversation on yesterday. It is very unique, because you would think that you can walk into boardrooms these days or meetings. We're so much behind the computer. No one really knows, you know, who they're talking with. But then when you meet, it's a different thing, and it's a phenomenon, but all by itself. But you know, the way that I look at it, being in a luxury space, not only with fashion, but especially on the concierge side, because I deal a lot with men that own the partnerships that I work with when it comes to the private jet charters or yacht charters, or a lot of the car services. That all of those are my partners, and most of those companies are owned by men. I have had to really bring I put it like this. I don't think we ever have to go overboard and begin to behave like men. I don't believe that we have to go into these places forcing our way. There is something that I have learned about a woman's touch to everything, that actually going in exactly as who you are, and the strength behind who you are, and the knowledge behind what you are presenting, it speaks for itself, and it brings you into the room before you ever walk into a room. And I've had a lot of conversation with some of my fellow friends that own businesses, and their approach was to, well, I go in there and I'm forceful because it's all men, and I have to show, you know, that I'm so strong. And I am learning more and more that men really are recognizing the power of the woman, and the balance that we have, not that it's an equal balance, the balance that we have to bring beyond the business sense, to bring in that touch of personalization that businesses and brands need, that story, that softness that businesses need. That's why you see so many corporations now turning to a lifestyle approach to their marketing, because there is a level of softness, there is a level of relatability that you have to have. It can't be strictly business and doing business the old way anymore. And I think the more that women step into these kind of executive roles and just roles as business women in general, we are bringing that wee bit of softness, like my grandmother used to say, we're sprinkling honey on top of the business aspect. And men really are understanding that there is a sense of urgency for that. So I think we are, it's a slow process. I don't think that we have just woke up and men are just receiving us and saying, oh, we don't look at the fact that you're a woman anymore. That's going to be there. But I also feel that that women that have come before us, women that are paving the way for us, as we pave the way to leave our legacies, I feel that we are leaving hard enough footprints and hard enough marks where men are seeing that, okay, we need a woman's touch to everything, including business. It's necessary for the motion of it, and so that's kind of where I sit with that. That's how I've been living by it, walking into those opportunities, walking into those relationships, literally as myself, with the confidence still as a woman, but allowing them to see I'm knowledgeable about what I'm speaking on, but also there's a touch that you need me for, and it's really just what it is. You need me for this touch. Your business needs me, or your corporation, or our partnership needs this touch that only a woman can provide.
I love it. I love it. And I love the certainty in that, because this is what we need to bring to the table more and more. Janelle, I'd love to hear from you, Dr. Janelle. Like, what is your weigh in on this?
Yes. Once again, it's happening. I love it. So my teacher taught me there's a time to be hard and there's a time to be soft. And that is a principle that has been passed down, again, for how long? I could not tell you. Just Asia? Absolutely not. That is a principle. And when I say principle, it means we all are human, and it applies to every single one of us, regardless of our gender, our age, our ethnicity, our nationality. And while that's a principle, it doesn't mean that everyone goes through the same experiences. Of course, having said that, I'm going to once again, which I don't always do, kind of share a personal experience or part of my life that I have a feeling we may, especially the woman right now speaking together, we may all see a parallel with. When I was in my younger years, not only was I a woman, but I was also young. Right. And so it's a funny thing. And everyone always was, well, I shouldn't say everyone, that's not true, but there's a general understanding that, people don't want to get older. Really funny. I could not wait until I was 40 because then people would take me more seriously. I mean, people thought there was something wrong with me, but seriously. So there was age, there was being a woman in the beauty industry, the Asian aspect, which quite frankly, the truth to even begin, I don't think about these things so much. Yes. Not that they do not happen, not that I have not experienced them, right, in real ways, but I am so rooted in the fact that I am human and everyone around me is human, as far as I am aware. And what I have that has been passed down that we all wish to achieve together is no different than what you need. What I need is no different than what you need at the end of the day. What I want to achieve really is no different than what you need to achieve. And so what I was going to say is, in my younger years, I must say that the approach that I had was much more yang in nature. I'm going to keep talking about that yin and yang because that's just how I visualize it. And that's the truth, right? That is hard, that is strong, that is tough, that is unbreakable to some extent. Okay. Now, the yin aspect is more of that soft, that more flexible side. In my 20s, I bulldozed through. Doesn't matter. I used to go into those boardrooms, just like you said, Annia. I'm sure we all have. Literally, it's just part of my life. Also, for whatever reason, I grew up around so many powerful men in my life, and I'm grateful for that. And there's a reason for that, right? And so I did not have fear when I walk into a room. Men, women, actually, I'm probably more aware when it's a room full of women, because I know we're all in it together. So let's connect quickly and we're going to blow this world away. But walking into rooms like that did not daunt me or scare me, because I knew who I was, what I wished to share. And if you didn't see that, back in my 20s, I'm going to make you see that. That's the truth. Now, 20 years later, I achieved 40. I'm really starting to understand that principle. Know when to be hard, when to be soft. In my book, I talk about 8 keys. That's even how the chapters are. The 8th key is be like bamboo. And this is the most important thing. One of the most important things in every aspect of my life, to be honest. You know, all these principles exist, but when to be hard, when to be soft, and knowing that sometimes, in fact, let me take that away. Oftentimes I'm realizing lately, when I've really kind of embraced this understanding that much more, that if we are able to be flexible, if we are able to be solid, if we are able to be very grounded and not even be emotional about certain things, something makes us angry and we react. In that moment, we have a choice whether we want to react or respond to what's happening in the room. And that is energy. That is chi. And when you want to set your chi before you walk into anywhere, every single one of us can do that. And when you ground yourself in your passion and your principles, Annia, Taco, of course, Hannah, I know you know this very well, then that's where you stay from. And it's a constant practice. You know, this is not something that just comes, we all have to work on this all of the time, but just, it's so important what I take in life, feminine, masculine, when I walk into a room full of men, women, I ground myself. I remember this is what I wish to achieve. This is my purpose. I don't have to convince anyone of what I'm wishing to share. I do not have to explain myself to anyone. I connect to what it is that I wish to achieve. I walk into that room, walk into that boardroom, or sit down with myself, whatever it is. Does not mean that there are not times that things are very challenging. But ultimately, at the end of that meeting, at the end of that day, at the end of that year, at the end of this life, it is my ultimate goal that I look back and overall, I feel I never wavered. And that gives us a strength, particularly as women, especially when we have children, when we have certain relationships in our life, that is just unmovable. And so that actually comes more from, I'll end on this, what I meant by be like bamboo, key number 8, you know, a stiff board, like we think of martial arts, which is a practice that I, you know, as a part of my life. When we think of a stiff board, we think, oh, this is strong. If I hit someone with it, it's going to hurt them. And that's probably accurate. But a stiff board, remember, no matter if you hit it too many times or hit it right at the right spot, just like we see those martial arts demonstrations, it can break.
Yes.
Really interesting. Bamboo is so rooted and so strong, but so flexible. When all the winds, a huge storm can come, push it all the way to the ground. And when that storm passes, it can bounce right back up. And so if we focus on that kind of strength, that sometimes it's the most wise and the most strong to be quiet, to listen, to not feel like we have to fight. Because remember that fight can show up in a much more powerful way sometimes if we don't show all of our cards all the time from a genuine place, right? And so I agree. And that is how I've gone through all of these things. It never fazed me, to be honest. Does not mean people did not treat me unkind, did not mean I saw my father go through some horrible situations. But at the end of the day, this life is short. We have certain things that we wish to accomplish. And no matter what comes in my way, you will not stand in my way because I connect to something much higher than this moment. So that's what I have to say.
Absolutely. I love it. I love what you shared because I do identify with your story. You know, early in my life, I identified more with the masculine. So I was very much in the masculine energy. And I could really, in the business setting, I was a man. I was just a man, like looking like a woman. And then there was this other side. And then I had to learn later in life how to integrate the feminine energy to really bring my softer side to business and to be able to, because the emotion did not belong in business. These things, I was very like matter of fact. I was very like, I could really, okay, we had an argument in business and then people would get upset and I'm like, but it was a business argument. Why are you upset? Like, we're friends, right? But I had to realize, oh, you kind of have to still bring that stuff because it's still a human and it doesn't matter if it's business or not, it's a human relationship. So that's really, beautiful that you shared that. So I'm going to go to Taco. I know I want to be mindful of time. So I'm going to ask after this one more question, and then we're going to have a rapid fire to close off today. So Taco, share with me your way in on this.
Well, I've learned a lot listening to the other sisters. I mean, from Janelle, I've written that we must know when to be hard, when to be soft. And I also love what Annia said about there is a touch you need me for. I think we shouldn't lose ourselves trying to become. And I believe in our transformational leadership, our power to also bring who we are as women into what we do so that we can impact even more. Because sometimes I feel that, especially in the work I'm in, we talk about women in decision making, gender parity and all that. But when women get there, they've forgotten their women. They don't encourage other women to get there. So it's not good enough to be there. You're there for a mission. You're there because you should also give the ladder and solutions for other women to get there. So I really love our discussion. I still feel that I have to recultivate somehow my feminine side because I've lost some of it. I was also so much into competition, professional career, or whatever, that when I went to the WIN conference, a platform that really got me out of my box.
Yeah.
And I'm here, I see Anna coming from out. I'm like, wow, who is this goddess coming from nowhere? She's just there. I'm hearing a voice. I turn my head and I see Anna is walking and doing her speech. And then I hear all these ladies talking about the divine feminine. I'm like, wow, this is really a different kind of of a space. And I think we should have the courage to reclaim that divine feminine, because we are custodian of something very important in life, and we have to nurture it and pass it on. And I'm on a learning curve to unlearn the masculine way. So I'm trying to step back into more of my feminine side, and I feel that I can really learn a lot from you. Thank you.
Beautiful, Taco. I really love this. And that was how Aphrodite Code came to be, because I received the message of returning to Aphrodite and really asking the question what that meant. I knew immediately that it was a return to love, a return to the divine feminine, to not dishonor our truth. And as you said, Taco, I love, being that custodian, something important that the feminine brings. That only the feminine can bring. And there are important things that the masculine brings. So it's not one or the other, but it's about how do we harmonize the two. Just a quick story before I go to the question of, in a male dominated, I never ever I identified more with the masculine in the early side of my career. So I always felt comfortable in a man's world. More comfortable. I actually had to learn to identify with the feminine. And I think that comes from, trauma with the mother story, losing my mother early. All of those things can create that imbalance. But I remember one time I was negotiating a deal for a client, and we were doing it with a company in Pakistan. And I started to quickly realize that it was as if I was speaking, but my mic was on mute, but I knew I wasn't on mute. So I'm sharing, but it's as if nothing I say, it's as if the CEO of this company is completely ignoring me. It's like I said nothing. I check my mic. I'm like, but it's working. I say it again, but it's as if I am not being acknowledged. I'm not even there. And I really had to, as you said, Janelle, breathe and recenter myself, not to get into a reactive or combative state,
right,
but to really find all of the feminine strength in me to advocate for my presence and to be acknowledged in this meeting. And I had to learn, because cultural wise, it's okay for him to ignore a woman. I should not even be in that room from his cultural perspective. But it's not okay if you're doing, we're talking about 2021, we're not in the Stone Age. And so I had to really advocate for myself, and perhaps even for all the other women who will come after me, that it was not okay for him to pretend I'm not there and pretend that I didn't contribute or say anything to the meeting when I was actually the one leading the meeting. So it was quite odd. So I think it's about advocating for ourselves as well. advocating for others, as Taco said. And, you know, when we ascend in life, I love the story of Queen Esther. We are put in the position not just to be queen, but for such a time as this, to help the other people who are behind us, who our position has placed us so beautifully to advocate for. So this is such a powerful contribution. So I'm gonna say, in the question, men are often, you know, more often than women, I have found, like, they're like, I have this great idea, I'm a genius, everyone's gonna love it. Why do you believe more women aren't owning their genius fully and having that inner knowing that the world will love and accept them and their ideas? So we start with Annia and we go.
I think it's because of the position that women are in. We hold a lot on our shoulders. We carry a lot. As the other ladies have talked about, we're the glue that are keeping our families together. We are out here, some of us working full-time jobs while also trying to pursue passions. We've all been through certain levels of trauma. We are complex people. We are complex. And what happens, I think, is that as you go through, every time you go through something, it's a little bit of you that you lose each time if you're not careful. And whether it's trauma, whether it's adding another something on top of whatever it is that you're doing, you know, as we go through life, there are pieces of us that kind of just slowly, we give it away. We give it up, we give it away. We pour that fuel, we fuel other people with that. We never are really refilling each other. And I say all that to say it comes to a place where we begin to lose confidence in who we are. And not only just confidence in who we are, we really begin to lose really our identity. I felt that very personally with losing my mother. My mother, and that literally was my best friend. It was like being cut from the umbilical cord when my mother so suddenly at 65 years old with no health issues. People thought we were sisters. When she passed away, I think when people ask me, what has it done to you the most outside of just the pain of losing her? I think what it has done to me the most on the negative side is that sometimes I'm like, okay, how do I identify now? Like, what is my ID now? I'm trying to find that identification of myself. And with that also sometimes comes a loss of confidence, because when you're walking in who you know that you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing, that confidence exudes. But then when you find when things happen, when life happens, sometimes you're in a place where it's like, okay, well, who am I supposed to be now? What am I supposed to be doing now? How do I identify, myself at this time? And so I'm actually going through that now. So I mean, it's a very good question, and I would love to hear what the other ladies feel about it, because that is my thing. It's some days that although I know what my purpose is, although I know what my business model looks like and all of these things that I know, some days I still wake up and I say, okay, where's my identity? And my mom is not here. How do I identify? And I feel lost when everyone else is like, I don't know, we know who you are. Like, you're the same. And I'm like, no, you don't know, the depths of trying to just reinvent life again, or feeling as if you're just trying to reinvent yourself, So I would love to hear what the other ladies, say about that, because I feel that that's the place that I'm currently in. So I'd love the insight.
Beautiful. So we go to Dr. Janelle.
Yes. And isn't it interesting? Once again, I have to acknowledge, I'm very grateful that in many ways, also sad that we have to connect in this way, but that is a part of life. But I could not understand more, Annia. And it's not every day that I hear someone speak in such a similar way of exactly your experience right now. I too very much walked through that and am walking through that. And it has adjusted for me. It has been 7 years now. So for what it's worth, I want to give you that. And it's a funny thing because for any of us who have lost someone that close, my father was the same. He was my best friend. I'd say he was my everything. We have walked through many challenging things in life, but that is certainly probably the greatest challenge nightmare that I have experienced thus far. And I don't use that word very often. He not only was my father my best friend, but he was also my teacher. He was my greatest mentor. And so I say that and very much resonating with you that when he left, I mean, yes, there's a piece of me that will never come back. And that's the truth. And someone said to me once, and I'm grateful, and I think of this often for any of us who have lost someone and are experiencing that grief. It was right after. And many people shared different things, and I always appreciated. Quite frankly, I was probably numb and didn't even notice, which isn't like me. But one person who I care very much about and is a very strong woman, she said to me, it'll never get better, but it will change. And I really appreciated that. So for what it's worth. And so as time has gone, I have learned, I actually now 7 years later, it was February 14th that he passed. So we just came up on the 7th year. And I say now with confidence, that I actually feel closer in some ways, in many ways, actually, to my father now than I did when he was physically here. And I have to share that while he was physically here, I spent every moment with him for the last 10 years of his life. It sounds very interesting, but I knew deep down, well, I want to kind of close it up here. I knew he was going to leave. I just did. I would even share that sometimes with my mom, my family members. People thought I was little, so I kept it to myself, but I knew. And so even moments where it wasn't always exactly what I wanted to do, I spent that time with him. So when he left, yes, you're lost. And that comes from whether you lose someone or not. There's moments in our life where we feel that way. And so kind of to sum up that aspect, 7 years later now, I know he is there and he taught me so much. And these principles that have been passed down are in my mind and I utilize them. That is my wish that this book does for any one of us, those principles that have existed. And so I know now because I put one foot in front of the other. And I think that's one of the most important things. And answering the question, Hannah, I think that's sometimes the hardest thing. When we look, this is what we have to do. No matter what the situation is, it can be really overwhelming. And one of the greatest principles that I have ever learned is just start, just begin. Put one foot in front of the other. And it's like a chi. That's why I love visualizing chi and the Tao or whatever that means to you, faith, whatever that means. You start that momentum and the universe, it'll push you. And I always believe, and what my teacher taught me, so long as you are always a good person, Janelle, you do the good things in life, the universe will help you. It does not mean that you will not walk through challenges, but I have that faith and I know life is short and I know he's always there in a way now. Annia, I feel like you will get me on this. I feel like we're similar in a way now because I know how strong that connection is. Even after you physically pass this earth, he can watch over me better than he ever could. And sometimes I talk to him, not sometimes, I talk all the time to him, to myself. People don't always know this. And if you take a moment and realize, this is my conclusion, that when we are in a moment where we feel stuck or it's too overwhelming or we can't begin whatever it is that we wish to achieve, remember, like I said, take one foot in front of the other, but also it's like we have to ground ourselves, take one foot in front of the other, and then you have to move, and then you have to realize that you are supported. And that is the ultimate, I'll kind of sum it up there because I don't want to take too much time. That is the most important thing, knowing that there's not always the perfect answer, but if you catch that momentum, you plug into the universe, you will start to move in that way. And this is how I want to conclude, as I was saying. So many times we look outside for answers and happiness. And this is a very profound principle. So it's not so easy that we're just going to get it right now. But we have to realize, we have to remember that all of the answers, all of the happiness, everything comes from inside. Does not mean we cannot have things outside that make us happy, beautiful things, all material, all whatever it is. But remember, everything comes from inside. So when we are able to have a quiet moment to speak to ourselves, what is it that I wish? What is it that I want? This is the first step. Talking to those of us that we connect to. That is the most important thing. We have to look inside, not outside. And that is what we have control over.
I love it. I just want to speak to, and thank you so much, Dr. Janelle, for sharing that and seeing the way through and knowing that connection can get stronger because, I don't know if it was Rumi or one of them who says, those who see distance do not truly understand love because there is never distance. And, my mom died when I was 16, my dad when I was 28. So I went through it twice in terms of losing I never really like to use the word loss, but both my parents transitioned. I remember when my mom did, this lady said to me, someone told her that when her grandmother died, that she had another angel in heaven. And that was like it just made me feel so good when she told me that. And just that relationship with death, it just changed. And my parents are always there guiding me. And what I realized is in our sadness and grief, it's only love that can connect us to them. So when we're in sadness and grief, we lose that connection and we cannot feel that closeness. But they're just wanting to be continuously close and pushing forward the mission. And as you said, like the grief doesn't necessarily, because I mean, I was 16, that was probably 20 something years ago with my mom. And of course, yes, I live my life and it's okay. But every once in a while, when I least expect it, then I'm crying and mourning her again. And that doesn't go away, but still, it's still a beautiful piece of, you still have that connection with the person, right? And so that's a piece. And then also just knowing that, I have a saying, there's destiny and death. That sometimes we cannot reach the destiny without death. And I would not be the woman I am if my mom hadn't died when I was 16. I would be a totally different person because of how she was like, doting on me and doing everything for me. And I had no sense of responsibility. And I had, I was the little princess, her little princess. The moment she died, I had that greater sense of responsibility. I had that greater knowing that I now had to step up and be a woman in my life and not be the little girl who can always run to mommy to take care of everything. So that was a pivotal moment in my destiny. And her passing really shaped my destiny and shaped rewired my path to take me to exactly where I'm supposed to be. And so I think the crucifixion in Christianity is a beautiful archetypal representation of that in death, we receive the resurrection. We cannot have that resurrection without death. And so that's one of the ways that I look at the gift of having someone leave our life, even if it's such a painful way to receive it, but it is the pathway in many ways.
And Hannah, one thing that what you're saying, because it was so eloquent the way that you spoke it, but even just speaking to whoever else that may be in this room with us, that even if it's not grief that you deal with, whatever loss you've taken, whatever trial you've gone through, we have to really recondition our minds to see those trials, to see grief, whatever that obstacle is. We have to look at it a different way. We have to look at it as, okay, what is the lesson who am I supposed to be in this moment? What is the lesson for this moment or for this trial? Because to revert back to your question, the question really was about how do we find ourselves when we're losing that confidence in who and what we're passionate about. But really, your trials are your gems. Like those are, it's not the good things that happen, and those of course pump us up and make us like, okay, I'm on the right track. But it's those trials, it's going back to those crime scenes is what I call it, going back to those places of trial, those places of whether it or friction, whatever it may be that you're experiencing, and actually saying, okay, if I didn't learn then who I was supposed to be in that moment, let me go back there and not be afraid to go back to that place, because sometimes we're scared to go back there because it's almost like PTSD for us, and it makes us where we're like, I never want to see it again. I never want to talk about it again. But we have to go back to those places and say, who was I supposed to be in that moment? What was I supposed to learn in that moment? And those learning lessons and those gems is really what formulates our character, formulates that the new kind of confidence that you walk in when you see what you've really come out of, and what you've really been, what you thought would have killed you. Because I've always said, if someone was to ask me, what is the worst thing that could ever happen to you? It was losing my mother. You know what I mean? But look at how I'm still alive. I never would have been able to say
Yes.
that I would have came through that. You know what I mean? So just for people on that are on with us, and women that are on with us that it may not be grief that you have to look at this as, but just any level of loss, any level of a obstacle or trauma or whatever it may have been that took your confidence, going back to that place and really sitting there and saying, who was I supposed to be? What was I supposed to learn that I'm supposed to carry into the beautiful destiny that awaits me?
Beautiful. I love it. So we're going to go to you, Taco. And just to underscore what you said, Annia, you know, when you talk about death, etc., I like this saying that the butterfly thought, the caterpillar thought that life was over, and then it became a butterfly, right? It's just like one change of form. So it's such a beautiful way of seeing it in any life situation. So Taco, weigh in, then we go to our rapid fire.
Yeah, it's a beautiful metaphor of the caterpillar and butterfly. And I will finish where I started. I still think I'm a woman in transition.
Yeah.
I think again I've kind of reached this stage where I'm at peace with many things that also happened to me. It's been hard at some point, and you have to go to the office and put on a happy face and get things running. Is there is nothing that is problematic. So I think now I've kind of learned from that, and I'm almost grateful that those things happened to me because they've shaped me throughout the way.
Yeah.
I think it has been helpful for me to reinvent myself a lot. I was telling Anna the other day, I used to change jobs every 4 years. Every 4 years, I packed my suitcase, moved to a new country, new job, new environment, new this, new that. I stopped doing that because now I find that I can be at peace anywhere I am, just being myself. Part of things that I think give me some challenge is that sometimes I feel that I have to be different people.
Yeah.
Like where I come from, it's Africa, it's an Islamic culture. You know, it's very Muslim dominated.
Yeah.
And I think I've been exposed too much. I've been out since 1987. So I've kind of lived outside a lot longer than back home. So I go quite often, but I still feel that when I'm in that environment, I cannot be myself 100% because I would shock the sensibility of people there in certain ways. So I still feel that I have to juggle
Maybe they
between.
need the shock tackle. Maybe they need a little shocker.
I don't know. They can take up to a certain stage, but what I feel, even just with my sisters, same family and everything, but we have different trajectories. I was out, they were there, they're different people. They have their own belief system, the values, and I respect everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I would say that what helped me was to kind of redefine my identity all the time. And I can remember about 30 years ago walking in a meeting when I wasn't speaking English. I'm a French speaker. In my country, French is the
Senegal.
official
Yes.
language. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, so at some point, I fell in love with a British man, and so the first years I would always speak French, and he would always speak English. And you really have to kind of put yourself in in a certain box because you go to a different culture, religion is different, the race is different, the culture is different, the language is different. So I've had that a few times, you know, moments where I totally lost myself moving to a totally new country with different realities. but in a way, they've always helped me grow. And the beginning is always tough because you seek for validation to be accepted in that context, in that new working environment with colleagues from different places in the world. Yeah, so there is really always a need to kind of be grounded, not lose yourself in that process. What I feel is it's very funny because now I feel as if I cannot really work in a national context.
Yeah.
I can only thrive in a kind of an international working environment because that's what I know best. That's yeah. So that's been challenging, but rewarding at the same time because I have friends from everywhere, different. I feel like you can take me anywhere and I can go and kind of find my way.
Yeah.
So I would say cultural norms, the practice, the behaviors, the value systems are the most challenging to navigate because where I come from, it's as if somebody older than you just talking to you, you
Bow
can't
down.
even look at them in the face.
Yeah.
And at some point, a friend from USAID was telling me, "Oh, it's so difficult. We want to give grants to women, but when they're being interviewed, they're like this. And in the US, it's like you're hiding something. You're not honest."
Wow.
That's the thing. Navigating in those different cultural realities, reading the codes, understanding them, and living with it has been for me the most challenging, but also the most empowering in a sense.
Yeah, I love that. And I think we have to have a different forum around navigating cultural codes because it's such a powerful topic as we enter more and more global business. And I know when I moved to Italy, I had to also learn the codes of the Italian culture as well, which was quite interesting. And also I was just joking with my friend, whenever I'm in the US, I'm Hannah, because it's harder when I say I'm Hannah, everyone's like, hey, you're Hannah. So navigating those things, I'd love to have a forum around that. So just some quick rapid fire. Thank you so much, ladies, for contributing. As we wrap up, I want you to share with us, what is your vision for the future of business and women in business? And we go with
my vision for the future for women in business, I would say my vision for the future for women in business is really women being exactly who they are. I think that I can't reiterate it enough. I think we're so used to being chameleons that we kind of jump on the walls and we'll blend in with whatever we've jumped into, and that's a good thing to a degree. But we are to never water down who we are. We are never to water down where life has brought us, because all of those elements is who makes us. And so the way that I would love to see the future for women in business is women being exactly who they are, owning whatever that passion, whatever that goal, that dream is, and really not allowing people to change it, and that does not mean that you don't seek wisdom. That does not mean that you don't look for, help where you need it. But if you know the parts of it that's rooted in you, you stand on that, and I think we'll begin to just see a lot more creativity. We'll see a lot less lack of confidence where women are hiding. I mean, I have met just with this week, Dallas Fashion Week is coming back, and the lady that's putting it on from Ukraine, we had this conversation yesterday. She said, I had no idea that there are so many women hiding in Dallas, Texas, that are fashion designers. And she said, I'm walking into these little cubby holes and houses and basements that they're hiding in. And she said, and I'm walking into gowns that will like blow your mind on any runway, on any runway in New York. And she said, why is everyone hiding? And it's literally the lack of self-confidence. It is the fear of what the world will think. But when you look at those that we may look to for guidance, or those that may be who we are inspired by, and you really listen to their stories, that most of them did not move off of the parts of those goals that were deeply rooted in them, and where they wanted to see what the vision was. So I think if we stick to that and we really formulate our brands, formulate the way we work in the corporate world, formulate our businesses around staying planted in what we believe in, then I believe that we will change the world as women in business. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Dr. Janelle?
Yes, thank you for that. I could not agree more. We have to be grounded in who we are, know your true self. That's key number one. That's where it all begins. And that's a lifelong process. But with that comes knowing, as I said before, that you have all the answers you can find within yourself. Of course, as you said beautifully, Annia, we want to look to the people around us, our mentors, our teacher, those who connect wisdom and experience that we can learn from. But at the end of the day, it is you who has to follow through. It is you who have to keep connecting to what your purpose is and what you wish to achieve. And to always remember, woman, man, just being human, you have the choice in every single situation that occurs. That does not mean we can control anything that happens around us, but no matter what comes in front of us, we have the choice always of how we want to respond to that. And so know what your goal is, know what it is that we wish to achieve, know your priorities, what is important to you, and then move, just start, and you'll be very shocked. And you will gain that confidence. You know, we can try to do all we want in our minds, but mind is one part of it. We have a mind, we have body, we have spirit. And so if we put one foot in front of the other, and we start to connect with our mind, our body, and our spirit, we will start to see that we do have that ability. And sometimes you just have to start that momentum with the universe. And you will see that the good people around you who do connect in that same way, which I have much faith are a fair number of people, a lot of people, you know, and I will continue to feel that way and believe that they will support you in what you do. And that is how, especially women, men alike, you can achieve all that you wish in this life, because truly it is endless for us. So
thank you so much for sharing that, Taco.
Thank you. This is really inspiring. And to me, there are 2 or 3 questions. The first is, are we in the mainstream? If we are not in the mainstream, why?
And we said, what is the vision for the future of women and women in business, for business and women in business? Yes.
Yes. I'm just saying that women in general, we are not in the mainstream. We are not in the mainstream. Yeah. And I think that's not the essential question. The essential question is also, is the mainstream good for us? And if not, how do we create our own vision and our own spaces to discuss and support each other and move forward? So I started this art journey recently, but I realized that it's no different from any other sector. It's also an area where women are pretty much invisible. And when I came out, I was very super proud. Yes, I've done paintings, this and that. It's not even always men who did not react or were not supportive. I had some friends, maybe they didn't believe in it, but they were the most shy to come forward and encourage. And so I would just say, in any business, we are not in the mainstream in many cases, in many countries, and it's not a problem. We should be able to rebound and create our own formula so that we can function and thrive with our own identities, our challenges, and just find creative ways to overcome those. Thank you.
Incredible. Wow. Such incredible insights. I feel like we could go on all evening, all night with this, because I am also taking away so much from each and every one of you. And I think we really curated this to have that balance in representation. You know, we have Taco, who's transitioning, and a lot of people at that stage can relate to that. You know, we have Dr. Janelle, who's in a completely different industry and has built all of these major manufacturing companies. And for those of you who are interested, Dr. Janelle has an incredible laboratory. So if you're looking at creating any beauty products made out of natural ingredients, she is the go-to. I've been meaning to write you to ask, where can I get that serum? I'm not ready to put my name on it yet, but I want to. That anti-aging serum of yours is unmatched by any other brand I have seen. It's truly incredible. And then we have Annia, and we put the links in there. I hope you check out her collection. Just some gorgeous designs, and just different women, but we can see that we have these common threads. We've all experienced grief. We've all had a desire to make a meaningful impact, and we all feel a sense of responsibility for our heritage, for our legacy. And we're all in many ways heading in the same direction, and we all feel that sense of responsibility to pave the way for women to come. So I hope that this forum has inspired you. I'm just going to ask, like, 2 minutes, everyone here. I'm so gracious you ladies have taken the time to be here. If anybody has any questions, you can do so quickly before we wrap up. You can press the raise hand button if you have a question, or you just want to share some feedback on what you heard here today. Does anybody want to share? Otherwise, if you don't, for those looking at the recording, because many people are not here live, but will watch the recording, you can also always share your questions with us. Send it to us in the forum, and I'm sure the group here will be more than happy to respond, or we'll probably do another feature in the magazine around those questions that you're having. I want to thank everyone here for being here today. And as always, live the cultured life. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.